Let's take a quick journey on a time machine and probably on an aeroplane to circumvent the globe and to see how the credit bureau industry evolved both over time and in different countries. Strangely, the credit industry itself, not the information, but the credit industry goes back to several thousands of years. Subsequently, around the turn of the 19th century, which is about 200 years ago, the first steps in credit information were taken. There was a tailor in Chicago who would give credit to his customers provided he knew their reputation and that they had paid their dues to him in the earlier transactions when he stitched clothes for them. When he got new references, he would check with his customers, existing customers, whether these new references were worthy of being given credit. And these were the first steps of sharing information in terms of repaying outstanding dues. Over the years, as technology took large and giant leaps, the need for sharing information and the ability to share information took exponential value. Bureaus came up in America, local ones, and there were almost 300 such bureaus in the US when trade and economic activity was limited to districts or small towns and villages. As the globe opened up, as communication, both physical and electronically, increased, the number of bureaus started consolidating. Before we get to that, let's take a look at developments in other countries: the UK, Europe, South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. These were the first set of countries that started doing credit bureau related work and activity. When you fast forward this to around the 1980s and the 2000s and the turn of the century, Asia and Africa and the Middle East started picking up on developing of credit bureaus. Closer home, for example, Sri Lanka had a bureau, Pakistan had bureaus, Bangladesh had a bureau, and it was only the last country in this region, surprisingly, to start credit bureaus was India. Now, before we look at the credit bureaus in India, we should also understand that the data that these bureaus collect varies across countries. Traditionally, it's all about bank loans, bank credit cards, working capital, company loans, and car loans and housing loans. However, many countries, and I can give you a specific example of Colombia in South America, where trade data would also go into the bureau. So, for example, if you were supplying material to a particular company and the company paid you or did not pay you on time, that would also get reported. Alternate data, that's a topic in India which has been discussed for a long time, and hopefully we will have alternate data going into the credit bureaus in India. What is this alternate data? A typical example will be your bill payments for your telecoms, your bill payments for your utilities like gas and electricity, your insurance premium payments, the regularity or otherwise of that. This alternate data also becomes extremely important in taking credit decisions. However, I must put in a word of caution here. All this information is great to have and great to talk about. What we need to develop is the use of this information in a judicious, correct, and a comprehensive manner. For example, just because somebody hasn't paid, say, a small amount of 50 rupees for a few days or a week or two, you don't reject his loan. You need to take into consideration the materiality, the timing, and the extent of the delinquency that has happened. So the Indian industry, the credit information industry, will develop. It is just 20 years old and has got several stages to go to reach the maturity that, say, for example, the United States has achieved. That maturity is required in various ways. One is the sanctity and the quality of the data. The other is the regulatory environment that protects the privacy and the confidentiality of the individuals. And equally, it is the maturity of the lender, you, to be able to use this data to benefit your company, your industry, and of course, your ultimate stakeholder, which is the individual.